Okay, how do I prevent this dude from strangling me? Or how do I prevent this dude from, you know, ripping off my arm or
You
something
just
like
segued right into it because guess what? That was one of my things. How hard or difficult is it to start your own business?
that? It can be tough, but like you said, you just embrace the suck and, enjoy getting your teeth kicked in.
If you focus in on the actual results,
Yeah.
man, you have a rude awakening ahead of you.
Yeah, 100%. My back was a little sore. I was running. I was just jogging, and all of a sudden I just fell to my knees.
Oh, the grind, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be slow, rough, tough.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to go about it. There's no other way.
A lot of times they're like, oh yeah, I want to change. I want to do all this stuff. But the minute they meet some resistance or some failure, they go right back to what they're doing before.
Just the social skills you need to communicate with people every day.
Yeah.
This is like sales is, you know how you get good at that? Sales.
Yeah.
Just the transition
Yeah.
from how aggressive the Alzheimer's is was mind blowing.
Yeah. I'm naturally introverted, dude. I'm not naturally like outgoing person. So for me to go up to people, just start talking to them randomly, it is tough, but I've trained myself to kind of get out of that comfort zone. I want to live the best life I can for my wife and for my boys. And so part of that is just, staying in shape, training jiu-jitsu, taking care of myself.
I'll see you in jiu-jitsu to choke you out.
Yeah.
Perfect. How hard or difficult is it to start your own business?
I would say like anything, man, starting is it's easy to get started. There's a lot to get started. I think the bigger challenge is just being consistent and riding through like all the ups and downs of everything. There's like little small things you need to do to get started, but like I'm the type of person to where, let's just get the ball rolling and iterate and try making mistakes and start learning instead of trying to get everything perfect before you start. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you learned that through experience though, right? Like the iterations and stuff. Were you always just that kind of person? It's kind of like, oh yeah, let's just see how it goes. Or did you just force yourself to kind of do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of forced myself to do it because, over time, like I've had a few businesses, 2 or 3 that didn't get anywhere from this. And basically, let me keep going. Okay. Basically a lot of them ended up not working out well, right? I think there's like some sort of stat or study, I don't know who exactly said this, but, a lot of people don't have success on their first 2, 3, 4 ventures. It might be like their 5th, 6th, stuff like that. So this is probably like the 3rd or 4th one that I'm doing. So getting a little bit more traction here, but
3rd or 4th one you're doing?
Yeah, I've done. Yeah.
That's a lot because that's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error, getting kicked in the teeth.
Yeah, and the theme of this podcast is kind of like, okay, well, failure and rejection is just pretty much data for how you can do it better the next time.
Yep.
And I get it. It's not as easy as to say, yeah, just get back up. I'm sure you took a financial hit.
Yeah.
You must have had some emotions. You were worried about your family, and the uncertain future that it was going to bring you.
Yeah, 100%.
But you just kept getting up, huh?
Yeah. No, like part of me, like I've worked for big companies. Like my first big job, I worked for a casino. I mean, my first regular job, I worked at a casino, and then I worked for Wells Fargo, which is, one of the largest banks there. I worked there like almost 6 years, and I hated it. I was miserable. I was stuck at a desk, and then eventually, I tried other stuff. It wasn't quite like my own business, but it was kind of almost like being self-employed. I was like a loan officer for Wells Fargo. I was a financial advisor for a little while. So I did those 2 things. And those weren't really like truly like businesses, but they were, you had to be able, it is like your business because you still have to generate, revenue by yourself, but it wasn't like starting from scratch. I kind of was in a sales job. So there was a lot to that, but, yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but do you think it's also, before I forget, do you think it's also an incentive that since it wasn't your business and you were working for someone else, it kind of didn't drive you too much? Or were you always driven like in sales? Were you always, all right, let's fucking go, go, go? Or since you have your business now, you're more driven to get those sales since it is kind of your baby and it's how you make a living? Not that it wasn't how you made a living before then, but I guess incentives make the world go around.
Yeah, 100%. And then, that was and just so you know, like when I first worked, I was working like a finance job, right? So I did that for 6 years. Not really a whole lot of like people interaction, no sales skills or anything. And then when I went to mortgages, that was a whole different animal. And so that's my first like position, like getting leads, talking to customers, trying to close deals and all that stuff. And I was brand new and I thought I knew what I was doing, but looking back at that, if I knew what I knew today, kind of back then, it would have been a different opportunity. But you know, it's all like you were saying, like you live and you learn as you go through experiences in life, and you adjust as you start, you know, building on all these like things that you go through in life. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So on this podcast, one of the difficulties and one of the things that personally scare me is just going, or used to scare me and still working on it, but is going up to people. And that's just not even in sales, man. I mean, we've talked about this on podcasts before, being a single guy, like going up to women.
Yeah.
Because you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And going up to women, trying to get dates and all that.
Yeah.
And that, at the start, is one of the scariest things. I don't know. I know what it is about the brain. It's kind of like your fight or flight response starts going fucking haywire for some reason, just to get rejected by a girl, which I think, not kind of, you know, going too out of the subject, but I think it's because that'll be the end of our like genomes. Like we can't produce if a girl rejects us.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Why is it that so how did you get over the fear of going up to people in sales and having to deal with that rejection?
You know, it's funny, right? It is, you know, when you look at, let's take like baseball, for example. Baseball is a good sport to example. Like a guy who's a all-star baseball player, he fails 7 times out of 10, right? He's batting 300. He's hitting 30% of the time. So he's failing 70% of the time. It's a lot of the same concept in sales, right? Is you're only going to have success, you know, 20, 30% of the time. So you're going to have a lot more failures along the way. And that's just part of the process, right? I know, like anything in life, right? I mean, we don't like to fail, right? We don't want to, you know, it's ingrained with us that we don't like to fail. We don't want to do things that make us uncomfortable, but that's part of your, you know, personal experience and going through life is like learning how to embrace the failures, embrace the uncomfortableness, and just making that a routinely part of your life so that when they do happen, it's kind of like, okay, I've been through this before, and yeah, I can talk about a lot of failures.
I'm sure.
You know?
I mean, you can see it too, and you don't even have to tell me, because knowing you, if you're making a living of how you're living and whatever your financials are, which I don't know, but you seem to be doing well for yourself as far as raising, you know, a whole family, and you got 2 kids, 2 young boys, is it?
Yeah,
that's
I got 2 young boys.
Hard to do, and the statistics, I think it's like $200,000 on the average to raise a kid by the time they're 18.
Yeah, I know it's a lot.
So where I'm getting at is you seem to be doing okay for yourself as far as, you know, like taking care of your family.
Yeah,
and I think it's from all those iterations that you had to do, from the failures that you have, from where you are now.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, I know it's so cliche, but it's like, man, failure is just a part of life, dude. Is, you know, there's 2 ways you can respond to failure, right? You can just kind of crawl in the corner and just be like, oh, woe is me, and do all that stuff. But I've never kind of been that type of person. So I've always kind of, you know, and it wasn't later until life till I kind of learned this. But, you know, when I was younger, I'm naturally introverted, dude. I'm not a naturally like outgoing person. So for me to go up to people, just start talking to them randomly, it is tough, but I've trained myself to kind of get out of that comfort zone.
That's
and just
good to hear.
Do that. So I am 100. If you gave me a choice, right? Like, I don't like going to the club. I don't like going to out the crowded places. If you gave me a choice, I'd rather just sit home with my wife and my boys, watch TV and chill. I don't like crowds. I don't like going to parties and all that stuff. I'm pretty relaxed.
That's kind of the obvious now, but then how about when you were younger? I mean, that's easy to say now.
Yeah.
We're all fucking old here.
But. Oh yeah. When I was younger, I loved doing that stuff. But then looking back at it, man, like I wasted so much of my life doing stupid stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I look back and I'm like, you know, I wish I could have made a better use of my time, and I didn't really mature. I'm 47 years old, in case you guys didn't know that. But I didn't.
Good-looking 47-year-old, by the way. I'm not trying to say that I'm not. You know, got them Asian genes, and so do I. And hey, man, you know,
Asians
it is
don't
what it
raisin.
is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so I didn't mature probably to like my mid to late 40s. Not mid to late 40s, mid to late 30s. Yeah, man, for like my 20s and early part of my 30s, dude, I was just doing stupid stuff, just wasting my time, partying, just looking to have fun. And it wasn't until my later in my life where I'm like, okay, I kind of started learning stuff and being more serious about my career and all those types of things. And that's when I kind of started to mature. So, but not looking back at it with regret, but just looking back at it like, um, you know, I wish I would have matured a little bit earlier, but like I said, all that kind of helps me get to this point in life.
Yeah, exactly. I never like to say like I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. Everything happens for a reason.
No, 100%.
But it's almost I was talking to a friend or actually on this podcast and it's almost a cop out when we say I was thinking about this. It's almost a cop out when we say, yeah, I should have done this in my 25s because one of my examples is that if the older me now that's trying to start this business and do martial arts and get healthy for myself
Yeah.
went back to my 25-year-old self and we're like, hey man, you should like improve your life and shit, my drunk 25 self would be like, fuck you, get the fuck, what are you talking about? I
Yeah.
don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You just want to have fun.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's easy and I understand what you're saying, and
Yeah.
most people like they say, yeah, if I'd go back to school sooner, and all that.
Yeah.
But dude, you were different back then.
Yeah.
I don't think you like I said, I don't know if you'd go back and convince your 22-year-old
Oh,
self.
no.
It's like, hey man,
Yeah.
you'd probably like punch him in the face. The 22-year-old would probably punch you in the face for saying that.
Yeah, I would have been like, you're dumb, dude. Get away from me.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
I'm just trying to have fun.
Yeah, I guess it's like the trajectories of life. you know?
Yeah.
So going back, I just want to make it clear because I think sales is so applicable to life. Can you just give like the younger guys tips that don't have a business into how to even approach sales and knock on doors and go up to women and do all that? Like just go to a job that you don't think you could get. Like just can you give some tips on maybe how to get over the fear or just bulldoze your way into starting?
Yeah, get over I think the easiest thing, dude, is just get out of your comfort zone and start doing stuff that you don't enjoy doing. I mean, it is hard. It is, tough to do all those things, but like for me, yeah, just going out and trying something new. I kind of get like an idea of what I need to do or kind of what to expect. So I'm kind of in that position, but at the end of the day, right. The only way you're going to learn is by throwing in the fire and kind of going out there and just, getting your teeth kicked in. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've knocked on doors, people have cursed me out and all that type of stuff. And they're like, can't you read the sign on the door? And I'm like, I get it. But, it just builds up your skin. But, man, it's like anything in life. You just got to be able to, like, you're going to get rejection. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just part of life. And you just got to be able to deal with it and cope with it. And, if you're too, like, and, this is probably going to be a little insensitive, but I think people are too, like, soft these days. They're, like, too scared to get hurt, too scared to get their emotions dealt with, and they're just like, that's why people are just soft today, if you ask me.
Yeah, I see a lot of that. Especially coming from like reels from like Dana White. It's like, if you could be a savage and stuff like that. And I absolutely think it's true. Yeah, I think people are soft. And growing up from an older generation, coming from immigrant families, fuck man, it was just a grind your nose to the stone, you know, and all that. And like, if you had any problems, my dad would just be like, dude, get the fuck up, you know? Like put on your bootstraps and get the fuck up. And I understand, but I also understand that it is biological to be, kind of scared of certain situations and fear. Yeah, I think everyone could get over it, depending on how bad it is. I guess, like, there's cognitive behavioral therapy. You could see therapists. There's all these tools and outlets for it. But yeah, no, I gotta agree with you that, man, if you really want something, there's no magic pill for it. Yeah, I guess it's pretty much what you're saying. Like, it's the hard truth that no one wants to hear. Yeah, you want that pretty girl, go after it. Yeah, you fail, get back up. Yeah, you want to start that business, you get kicked in the teeth. That's not what you expected. Go do it again. Yeah, it's the harsh reality. There's no other way to put it. No, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah, it's 100%. Because I mean, like, you're gonna get rejection. You're gonna have all these things kind of thrown at you. But at the end of the day, right? It's like, people don't. Here's the thing about people, and I'm sure you know this. Like, people don't change fundamentally unless there's something really pushing them to want to change, right? People have to have like a sense of pain or a sense of that something's missing in order for them to want to change. You know, you give the example, right, of somebody that's, if you have somebody that's perfectly healthy, they're, you know, no health issues, everything's okay. Why would they ever want to, they might not be in the best shape, but why would they ever want to like lose weight, live a better life? Because they're content. It usually takes that one instance for you to just get like hit in the head and be like, you know, that scare from the doctor or something happened to you that triggers in your brain, okay, there's something that I need to do in order to change my current situation, or else I'm just going to be stuck here, right? And that was for me, like being just an employee and doing those types of things. Like, I hated doing it. I didn't like it. I knew I didn't want to be there. So that was the motivation for me to kind of go out and try to do something else. But at the end of the day, like, there's got to be something inside of you that makes you want to change, to take on those tough things. Like if it's a girl, right? If it's a pretty girl, if you're happy being single, why would you want to go talk? What's the point?
What's the motivation?
Yeah. But if you're like, man, I'm 45 years old, I'm getting old, I don't have anybody in my life, then you're going to be like, okay, I need to get out of my comfort zone and start having these conversations and doing these things. So,
and I think that kind of relates to how we were when we were kids, because when we were kids, it's like, what's the motive?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, wait a minute, like, I'm not trying to start a family yet.
Yeah.
I want to drink and all this shit. It's not because just like alcohol, just like when I quit alcohol, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, that's the sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah. So I think obviously, I think it's individualized for the person to when they're going to determine that.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because it's almost as if you have to hit rock bottom.
You do.
To fucking be like, oh shit, I'm kind of on a crossroads here.
Yep.
And if I don't want my like wife to divorce me or my kids to hate me, or I don't want to just be a loser, or I don't want to die early, then I should probably get up and do something. And amazing how what that does.
Yeah, and that's I mean, like you said, somebody said that to me. When you're sick and tired of sick and tired, that's when people actually want to change. Yeah, and everybody has that different point, right? You know, when they hit that inflection point or that crossroads, they can be like, yeah, I need to change, or I can just kind of stay here. And then the other part too, that is like, okay, once they realize that they need to change, are they willing to go through all this stuff over and over in the discipline to make that change? Because a lot of times they're like, oh yeah, I want to change, I want to do all this stuff, but the minute they meet some resistance or some failure, they go right back to what they were doing before.
Absolutely, man.
And
absolutely. That's common, right?
Yeah,
very common.
That's what 95% of people do. Is like once they hit that failure, they're like, I don't want to do. And the same thing, right? You go to a girl, you're like, I need to find a girl, and you start dating. I'm gonna go with this girl, and you get rejected, and you're like, oh, that sucks. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. After that, is because we just have so many outlets to kind of take substitute of doing the hard things that we have to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Porn.
Yeah.
Right. You can't get it. You can. You know, kind of handle that. You can watch, just get out of your head and do Netflix. There's alcohol. You know, you could just get out of your head and keep doing it so that you don't have to think about your problems. But we all know where that path leads. Yeah.
And I mean, there's good ways that you can deal with your issues, right? Like with those, people can go down, you know, porn or, you know, alcohol or substance abuse. Like, the only outlet that I really have just to kind of get my mind off of things is jujitsu, right?
Yeah.
That's where, like, man, when you're rolling and you're training, man, you're not thinking about anything else, man. Sure. You're just thinking about, like, okay, how do I prevent this dude from strangling me? How do I prevent this dude from, you know, ripping off my arm or something like that? You just
segued right into it, because guess what? That was one of my things. So you are 47.
I'll be 48 this year. 48
years young this year.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So I've been training with you for a while now. What, 2 years?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, I started going to Syndicate in January of 2022.
Damn. Yeah. So, man, time goes by fast. And, you know, obviously, me and you hit it off right away.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's culturally or we just like to joke around. You know, but we've always had that camaraderie in the beginning. And it was crazy because I talked about this again on the last podcast about Denise Richards.
Yeah, the big Russian. He's Russian, right?
Yeah, he's Russian.
Yeah.
He's 45 years old and
Yeah.
fucking brutal.
He's a
Fucking-
killer.
Yeah, he just
Yeah.
sits on my face. And that's what he does the whole time.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, and I do have the utmost respect for like the older guys, which is going to be me in about 10 years. But yeah, it has to be, just because it has to be kind of a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going through these iterations of like the moves, and then you progress, you're getting up in belts, and then all of a sudden you just have this like white belt, this fucking young guy just working the fuck out of you, and you're like, you've been doing this for like fucking 4 years, 5 years, 8 years, and then it's almost, you have to adjust your mind
Yeah.
to be able to be like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of just how it goes in the later ages. Can you talk about that, about how you feel rolling in your like 40s, higher 40s, getting there?
Yeah.
And what made you do jiu-jitsu, man?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start from the beginning. So, like, I've had some friends that have trained jiu-jitsu for a while, and one guy, he's a black belt here, and he always talked about it. And finally, I went to his gym one time, and I tried, and I was like, "This is awesome, right?" But it was just too far for me. I couldn't. It was, I'd go there. It's too far. I'd make every excuse not to go. So then finally, I found a gym close to me, and I was like, "Okay, let's try this." And so I think that was in 2018. So at the time, I was 42, and I started going to this gym consistently. And, I went there consistently for 2018. I was going 3 times a week. I was married, didn't have kids, so I could train 3 times a week.
Yeah, it's great, huh?
So I did that for, about a year. After doing that for about a year, I got my blue belt. And then that was like right around December 2019, I had got my blue belt. And then COVID hit, of course, in 2020.
Yep.
So that was March 20, right on February, March 2020, everything shut down. And at the same time, right, I just had my first son, he was born in November 2019. So basically from 2020 to 2022, I took a 2-year break from there and then started training. I was like, okay, I need to find another gym. So I started training at Syndicate in January 2022. I've been there ever since. But, just going back to that, like, I am like I'm a nerdy, like geeky person, and I love like the
I could tell.
I love the technical aspects of jiu-jitsu and how just like the smallest little details can make the biggest difference in a move or a technique. And so those types of things just really appeal to me. I love playing golf. I love playing, doing jiu-jitsu.
Technique
So those,
stuff, yeah.
all those little things appeal to me. And so, another thing just about jiu-jitsu, right, is like, it goes back to that whole thing about like being uncomfortable, right? And my buddy said this to me. He's like, yeah, you just get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I was like, yeah, what other thing can you say like in jiu-jitsu when you're getting smashed by some young dude and it's like, holy smokes, it's humbling, and you get used to dealing with those uncomfortable situations, whether it's, in a situation where you're rolling with some big strong dude, he's getting smashed, you're getting smashed, or you're going to the door, knocking on the door, trying to get somebody to sell solar to them, or going up to the pretty girl, right? The more you can train yourself to be uncomfortable, the more you harden yourself to be like, okay, I can do this, and you kind of you teach yourself to be tougher.
Yeah, and which brings me to a quote.
Yeah,
you kind of set me up for that, which is hard life. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you're always sowing for the future. You're always sowing for the future. But so I wanted to kind of pivot a little bit, and we talked a little bit about me and you. We have something in common, and I believe it's your mother that has Alzheimer's, correct?
Yeah, she has Alzheimer's. She has early stage dementia. She's had it. She's probably had it for like a year now, year and a half, 2 years.
Yep.
Yeah, and she's born in 1946, so she is, what is that, 76? Yeah, she's 76 years old.
76.
Yeah.
Wow. So surprisingly, at least compared to my situation, she got it pretty late.
Yeah.
That's actually for people that have Alzheimer's, if it's in their genetics, That's actually like really good.
Is it?
And
Okay.
Alzheimer's isn't good. Don't get
Yeah,
me
yeah,
wrong.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just from my experience. My mom got it at fucking 56, and she was pretty much forced retired because of that disease.
What's the age when they're usually seeing people with Alzheimer's starting to show like symptoms? Do you know?
It varies for sure.
Okay.
It varies for sure. I've asked around. I mean, I've researched a lot about it, obviously, because my mom had it for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, just like cancer, man, it just varies, and mostly just in your older stages, maybe mid 70s.
Okay.
So that's kind of why I say it's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, fuck. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not, again, it's not a great thing. It's just
Yeah.
shit. I, and the reason why I say that is, like I said, my mom got it around 56. She was
Yeah. And that seems really young to me.
really young.
Yeah, yeah.
But her whole family had it. Her brother got it at an early age, and a couple of her sisters, and it's a scary thought.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh man, and they all got it young too. And the crazy thing is that, like I said, she was resigned out of work, and rightfully so, just because, well, she was a nurse, she was a
Okay.
RN.
Yeah.
So
It's like, yeah,
you don't
can't
want her to be around the
care of
hospital. But one thing about Alzheimer's that I always think about is that I can't believe it's real. I can't believe it's a real disease. It seems so
Okay.
surreal.
Yeah.
Because back when I was, when my mom was alive and I was taking care of her for 4 years, I just, it aggressively got worse. Like, at first she could go to the toilet, and then like a few months later she
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
So just the transition
Yeah.
from how aggressive the Alzheimer's is was mind blowing.
Yeah.
It was like, oh man, this really is kind of like the Curious Case of Benjamin Button. It's like an aliens movie. It's almost like a parasite inside the brain. That's why I say it's like a movie. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There's a disease like this that can pretty much control your mind and deteriorate it,
Yeah.
which is wild.
Yeah.
Like the more I think about it.
No.
And this now that and obviously this is very dear to me because my mom had Alzheimer's, so I'll listen to this guy on YouTube. His mom has Alzheimer's too, but he's a big research
Okay.
when it comes to that disease.
Okay.
And now they're relating it to exercise,
Yeah.
being how healthy you are,
Yep.
your diet, because they did the study, and I don't know particularly, the accurate study on it, but they were saying that people in the eastern regions of Africa,
Okay.
since they don't have a lot of processed foods, or they have no processed foods,
Okay.
they just don't have Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Okay.
A lot of the foods that we eat, fast foods and all that, affect the way we think, our
Okay.
brain fogginess, and just Alzheimer's in general in our older ages.
Okay.
So now they're coming out with studies that you should be active. If you're genetically prone to it, you should be active, eat healthier, just like anything in life.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
want to do, exercise, eat healthy, and just maybe just take care, have some social connections.
Yeah.
And try to take care of yourself as best as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just seeing like my mom has not deteriorated, but she's changed a lot in the last year. Like I noticed her memory, she basically doesn't have much like short-term memory. So anything that happens within like the last few minutes, she doesn't remember. But I think like a big reason for me, right, is again like I'm 47. I got 2 young boys. I got a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, my wife. I want to live a long life for my boys and for my family. So, and I see that my mom went through that. And I've read different. I've never done the research or studied anything, but I did read that there is some correlation between your overall like your healthiness and Alzheimer's. Where if you're overweight, obese, diabetic, it does have an effect there, or could have an effect. And so that was a big thing for me. Was just I want to live the best life I can for my wife and for my boys, and so part of that is just staying in shape, training jiu-jitsu,
Yeah,
taking
man.
care of myself, all that stuff.
I've said this before on the podcast, and when I was talking about Dennis,
Yeah.
I was saying that I wish in my older, 40s, just like you, 50s, 60s,
Yeah.
that I don't need a lot of money. I mean, sufficient enough for me to survive
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah.
For, provide for like my family. But I want to be healthy, man.
Yeah.
Because, dude, I don't know how much this compares, but last week I had the stomach flu.
Oh yeah.
And holy fuck, like just that, I couldn't work out properly.
Yeah.
I had the shits, like fucking diarrhea, and just going to the bathroom, cleaning that shit up on the toilet. It's like,
Wearing Depends.
okay, let's not. We're in defense. I mean, hopefully not till like I'm in my 90s. But yeah, it's just anything that distracts you from your daily life of,
Yeah.
just getting up and moving and playing with your kids or something.
Yeah.
Like, health is such a big factor.
Yeah.
In your later stages in life, and even now.
Yeah.
It's like, that's all I want.
Yeah.
I don't care. Keep the money. I'm not going to get buried with the money.
Yeah.
It's going to be my quality that I'm worried about, quality of life that I'm worried about down
Yeah.
my later ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing. Like, cause like, like I said, I'm 47. I herniated a disc probably like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yikes.
And that was just like the worst
terrible.
thing. Like I heard it. I was lifting.
Oh my
And then I was like running one day. My back was a little sore. I was running. I was just jogging, and all of a sudden I just fell to my knees.
Oh.
And I was like, this is the worst thing ever. And so, when I started training jiu-jitsu, it kind of took a toll on it. I was getting stiff. That was the only thing I was doing is training jiu-jitsu. But one of the things that like this year and like last year, I'm really committed just to being better. Like I had a lot of like lower back pain just being 47. I was like, man, I can't stand this. So, one of the things was like, I got to take better care of like my body, especially my core. Like, again, I want to be able to train jiu-jitsu until my, 60s, right?
Yeah.
And I can't do that if my back's always in pain and I can't move and I wake up and everything's there. So I was like, okay, I need to really focus on, taking care of my body. So that was one of my commitments this year to myself was just, lose a little belly fat, strengthen my core, and just have better overall shape. And I've been training. I just do like kettlebells, like two or 3 times a week.
Calisthenics, pretty much at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't do anything like heavy lifting, but that's been like night and day. Like I don't have, like I couldn't play golf without popping a couple of Advil because my back would be in so much pain. Every time I'd roll, one little tweak, I'd be like out for like 2 weeks. So now it's like I feel like everything's in a good spot to where. Like I played golf last week. I didn't have any lower back pain. I'll train and I'm just like, I don't have any pain. So that's, it was that wake up call again of like, I'm sick of having this back pain. I don't want to do this anymore. And now I'm like, okay, I'm not going back to how that stuff was before.
Dude, we take a lot of things for granted. And
Yeah.
one of them is how healthy we are.
Yeah.
For sure. We
Yeah.
get sick, just fix it, man.
Yeah.
It's like you just want to be like, dude, you're not thinking about anything else when you get sick.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, just fucking I wish I was back to normal.
Yeah. I wish I could just function like how I was before. And it's like, again, it's that wake up call when you feel that pain, you're like, I need to do something to change this. And that's what kind of makes you do something different.
So we have a tradition on this podcast. I think that was great. I think that's a lot of good insights from especially a guy that started his own business from ground up. And I especially like the tips on rejection because like I said, it is applicable to everything in life. I think sales in general.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
Facing the fear, socializing with people is a big one. It's a big one. That's also what I kind of didn't get to was just the social skills you need to communicate with people every day.
Yeah.
This is like sales is, how you get good at that? Sales.
Yeah.
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 So last thing, what would you say to everyone, like an aspiring young man? Because this podcast, I told you this before, but I did create this for my younger self. And the advice that I would give my drunk younger self that probably didn't give a shit at that time, what advice would you give as far as when it comes to a business context, sales, what practical advice that if someone was thinking about starting a business, what would you do first? Whatever it is, mindset, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think, I'd say probably the biggest thing is just start doing it, right? I mean, too many people I think are, again, it goes back to the same thing. It's like, we're scared to fail. We're scared to get kicked in the teeth. We're scared to, do all this stuff. I think once you start doing it and just start getting the motion, that kind of just builds some momentum. And as you're going through that, you know, you learn and you iterate and you kind of adjust things along the way. I think the biggest thing is just start going, right? Just start taking some action. You know, again, I'll go back to the health and fitness. You know, people are like, oh, I got to come up with a perfect plan. I got to get my diet. Everything's got to be perfect. I got to have a meal plan. I got to have, you know, routine. I say just start off. Just start with like going out, waking up, taking a 15-minute walk. That's the simplest way. And then you start building that momentum. You're just like, okay, I can do this. And now you keep building on those things. It's the same thing with a business, right? It's like you're never going to know everything. But part of it is just, you know, learn a little bit and then just start trying, you know, start failing.
Right. That's great advice. To that, and then I'll usually do my own advice as well.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not qualified to give any, but I 100% agree.
Yeah.
With what you just said. I think it's the small actions, but just like an overnight success, I think that's what people kind of look for is that, oh man, if they're trying to, you know, be a bodybuilder or get in shape, they want all these muscles, they want it overnight.
Yeah.
They want it like within a week.
Yeah.
And the grind, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be slow, rough, tough.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to go about it. There's no other way. And yes, I agree with, you know, just start small and focus in on that.
Yeah.
Because if you focus in on the actual results,
Yeah.
man, you have a rude awakening ahead of you.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that journey to that, and the journey never ends, by the way, but the journey to that is a long one, my friend.
Yeah. So. No, it's good stuff. Like, yeah, the whole process of going through it and, you know, learning all that stuff, it can be tough, but like you said, you just embrace the suck and, you know, enjoy getting your teeth kicked in. That's
perfect. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for taking the time to come here.
Yeah, no worries.
In the Speakeasy Studios, and I appreciate you, man.
All right,
I'll see you in jiu-jitsu to choke you out.
Yeah.
Perfect.